You were saying that the mold deepens your breathing.
Yeah, it's the toxic effect of the mold causes the breathing pattern to become deeper, and then you start to lose carbon dioxide.
And then you lose all your fitness and everything because of that.
Yeah, if you lose your carbon dioxide, your pH goes out, you're losing your oxygen in the cells, the nervous system is getting hyper, and your immune system is getting weaker.
As a monk, I practiced that, and then I left the monastery, traveled a bit. And in that process of leaving the monastery, I went and lived on an organic farm for a while. And that's where I got ill. So kind of strange, really. But I lived on an organic farm because there was a high spore count. And the building that I was living in had black mold and damp. And I didn't understand the consequences of that on my health. So I lived there for a while because I had nowhere else to live. And slowly, I got more and more ill. More and more became allergic to all sorts of different foods and all of that type of stuff. So it was like my first exposure to mold. I didn't actually know at the time. I thought I had Lyme's disease, but I actually was checked out for that. But when I was being checked out for Lyme disease, the person who was doing that looked at the computer and said, what's this staph or something or other? And then she had to Google it. And she said, oh, that's mold. And then suddenly I realized what that was. Because I was wandering around, it just slowly etched my life away, I guess. I didn't really know what to do, and there wasn't very much awareness of it. I took lots of medicine. I did all sorts of really extreme things. I did, you name it, I did it pretty much. I did this MSM, this bleach stuff at one point in time, which is incredibly strong stuff. It sort of helped, but didn't. And anyway, I sort of managed to recover out of it after a long while of extreme diets and people helping me. It sort of came out of it and carried on. And then I stopped being a monk. I moved to the Netherlands. This is a nice picture behind me. Is lots of water, but also quite a damp country.
Can you say something about the symptoms you had with that mold toxicity?
You just get completely wiped out energetically. Your guts go out, your mind goes out. So you get a lot of mental health problems. So I went to the doctor with extreme anxiety, and I told the doctor very clearly, I know what anxiety is mentally. I don't have it, but my body is exhibiting that. So incredibly high heart rate. I had an ECG. I had the thing on my chest. They measured it all, and they said, yeah, it's true. Your heart is racing like a trooper. And you get the thing, well, actually, there's something mentally wrong with you. You're stressed or whatever it is. But, and I know that isn't the case now. But, there's just not awareness of it. You get all sorts of allergies to foods. And also, because of having a practice of listening to my body, I listened to it, but it also said, I don't want wheat. I don't want gluten. I don't want sugar. In fact, in the end, I was only eating greens and lentils and buckwheat, because buckwheat's not a grain. It doesn't produce so much sugar. And actually, I'm on that gluten-free, low sugar-free diet now, because I noticed that. But it destroys your sense of balance. You knock over everything. You don't know that you're doing it. So I broke loads of glasses, of cutlery. I mean, endless amounts of just glass on the table, and hand-body coordination is just completely out. And so you think your hand is going there and it gets knocked. Basically, your brain is inflamed.
Okay.
And you can feel that. So if you sit in a car and it's going up and down, you can actually feel it. The brain, there's no space in there. There's no sponge effect. You just get whacked about. It affects your eyesight. You get blurry vision. It got into my eyes. So I had a retinal tear in that, which I was just saved because I had an emergency eye operation when they found it. Basically, I went into hospital. They said, you're going in next day. And that's what I did. Otherwise, I'd have lost my eyesight. So it gets into your eyes. Black mold is a neurotoxin. It's had a huge amount of money invested in it as a biological weapon because you can't trace it. So it means if you breathe it in, it goes straight into your brain. It affects your brain nearly immediately. There's a lot more research on that as well. So it really knocks you for six. I lost a tremendous amount of weight that time. You struggled to think clearly. Amazingly, I was running a whole load of things during that time as well. I managed to, I think, partly because of my mindfulness practice.
You were able to function despite that.
Despite that, yeah. But I had to be super careful. I was also in Asia, Malaysia, and those types of countries where there's very high damp, humidity, mold in the air, and so I could immediately smell it when I went in a building and immediately have a reaction to that. At one point, actually, I remember going into one building and I could literally just put my hand on my pulse here, and I could just watch my body respond to it, immediately have that type of allergic reaction to it. The second time I had this, which is when I moved to Holland, I was in a house, and again, there was a very, very, very small leak over a long period of time, which completely, again, destroyed this house. And we managed to get it mold remediated. But I went to bed one evening, and basically I had an anaphylactic shock. So I couldn't breathe. My throat closed. And I was shaking on the bed. I was physically shaking, and my partner was phoning the ambulance because it looked like a heart attack, basically. And I couldn't get off the couch. I was so low in energy, I could hardly walk at that time. And I went to the doctor, and I had all sorts of blood tests, nothing. And because we didn't know that there'd been a mold in the house at that point, I had an ECG. They put me on a bike. And they said, you're as healthy as a 20-year-old. Your heart's fantastic, right? But still, I had this shock. And what was amazing at that point was, what I'm really grateful for, is that at that point I remembered, if your throat closes, the best thing that you can do is do the butane, to open up, right? The asthma, how you share with people who are having an asthma attack. Yeah. And I clearly remembered that, right? And that's what I did. I started doing pauses again. Right? I've been keeping an eye on it roughly, but not doing a lot. But at that point, I knew if I don't do that, I'm going to be in pretty serious trouble. So that's what I did. I started doing that, and I came out of all the shock. And we went to the hospital. They measured my blood pressure and everything. They said, you're as calm as anything. And yet I'd gone through all of that. Also, mindfulness practice, that did help. But it was actually doing the holding of the breath and going against the, like, I need more breath to open up and come out of that shock.
That's interesting, because another symptom that's really acute, that's nasty, is leg cramp.
Yes.
Very painful. And the best thing to do is to hold your nose, and you just go right through the pain of leg cramp and out the other side, and it just vanishes.
Yeah. I presume it's for the same thing, that the blood vessels open up. Yeah. And so, like, this was like a revelation to me when I did that. And I did a few of the alternative treatments again, because that's what I'd done before. And then I was just like, I've had enough, and that's when I reached out to you and said, like, I'm having this reaction. I did this, and, I need to do the potato again, because I just saw the reaction it had on my body. It stopped. So from that point onwards, actually, I hardly took any medicine during this second time that I had it at all. Well, I took some vitamin C, some NAC, which is a precursor to glutathione, which is good for detoxing the body. But that's actually it. Vitamin D, that's it. And then I started on the really all day, all night until it went. And when I say all day, all night, I do mean all day, all night, because it was extreme in my case. I really couldn't get off the couch. I remember I'd been able to cycle up a hill, and I couldn't actually do that anymore. At that point, I couldn't even get off the couch. I was like there was nothing there. And so I just started doing it. And I didn't have a really low control pause, but I had enough things weren't moving. And I take my mouth up, and then I just wake up in the night, and it was the breathing wasn't working, and I just got up and I did it, and I went back to bed. Or if I didn't go back to bed, I just sat up in bed, sitting up, or I'd go away from the bedroom. I'd sit downstairs in a chair, sit up, and just keep going with it. And there was a few times when it got really hairy, I must say. Yeah, when actually I lost my breath a couple of times, and I had to reach out even in the middle of the night. It was pretty, it's pretty scary when that thing happens, regardless of all my mindfulness practice and all that stuff. Basically, I couldn't breathe you know, everything was clogged up as all the mucus, everything was coming out. But I just plodded along with it. I was, you know, and just did it walking in during the night. And I guess it was, I'd say it was extreme in that way. But the thing was, I was actually starting to notice things were changing, right? Even in the extremity of it, like the energy was starting to come back. And then actually, I would say in quite a short period of time, I mean, I lost a tremendous amount of weight. I remember coming to some of the sessions and think, bloody hell, I'm going to fall down the crack in the drain because I lost so much weight. And it was scary to look. It was scary to actually, I didn't even weigh myself during that time because it was too scary to look at all the body fat, which is also a mold response because the fat holds the toxins.
The toxins,
But,
yes. You have to you get rid of the toxins and the fat dissolves.
Exactly, yeah. And so it just comes off everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, in here, you know, I mean, you can still see it a bit, but the thing was, the energy was coming back. That was the crucial thing. And I continued working through all this time. You know, I still ran my business. I still had my clients. You know. And I was also in temporary accommodation because we couldn't be in the house because it was being remediated and all the rest of that. And then when we came back and I did the mold remediation with a full mask on, and just like it in COVID, really, a whole hazmat thing, and we did it all. And funny enough, that the actual hat, because when you wear a full mask, you're actually sort of also reducing your breathing. That actually helped me in a way. It's kind of bizarre. So I was doing this. The energy really came back. I was able to do physical work and then actually cleaning the house, doing it all because I wanted to make sure it was actually done right. And I knew what, you know, how to do that. Actually also helped me with the Buteyko.
Sure.
You know.
So your control pause was about 18, if I remember rightly.
Something around that, 18, 20.
So that crossover at the control pause of 20 is where the major beginning of discharging the toxins would happen.
Right.
And that was the first fight.
Yeah, definitely. And then it just started really moving up, and then my whole health started to coming back. And of course, I just didn't stop. Why would I stop? I mean, it's crazy. If your health is coming back, why would you stop it? So I did the intermediate course, you know, the one where we actually do it with exercise. And then we started talking about, because I live in the Netherlands, you know, doing it on the bike. So I started doing the breathing on the bike. And that really started shifting things up again, another gear, when you start doing it with the physical exercises and moving of the arms. Basically, I just went from strength to strength, really. And I mean, I reached out to you.
That's right. You sent me a text.
Yeah, because I live in the Netherlands and our neighborhood is sinking. And so they built the road higher. And in front of our house, we had to make our pavement also higher. So there was a whole load of bricks, big bricks, and we had to lift them all up so that they could replace the bricks, right? So given that in the past, my back has not been, you know, I've had a herniated disc and all that, although I work with it really well. I've always been careful around that. We have quite a big front yard, and basically I did all those bricks. Probably it was about half a ton. One, I wasn't tired afterwards. I looked after my back, admittedly, the way that to carry. But the thing was actually that the strength was there. Right. And again, control pause afterwards. Did it dip a bit? It didn't dip that much. It's interesting on all sorts of different levels now, because it's not just physical, it's also, you know, mental. There's a mental aspect to it. It seems to go in cycles for me, how it comes into the body. So I was, you know, I just been away on holiday, and unfortunately I went to a cottage that was really moldy. Although I asked the people that to say whether it was, but they said it wasn't, but it was. And again, I had this allergic reaction to it. And I slept on the floor with my head outside the door. That's the way I was able to deal with it, which is responsible. But I was still doing my control pause.
Your maximums.
Yeah, it's my maximums all the time. And if I needed to do it through the day because I caught a whiff of something, I just stopped and did it then. And I was checking my pause. Not by the book, but just when I felt, okay, you know, how is it? It hardly dropped. So I had all this going on with my body. And the amazing thing about it was we cycled every day. We cycled in the dunes. It's in the sand dunes. And we cycled 20 kilometers every day. So I had all that going on. I mean, admittedly, I had to even get up in the night sometimes because it rained, and then I'd sit up on a bench outside on a veranda, again, check the pause, sort of okay, or if it wasn't, do a couple of maximums. That was it. I do still get some cleansing reaction. This is maybe a controversial point, what I'm going to say now, so I'll say it with that. So, I mean, early on in COVID, I'm pretty sure I had COVID, but I didn't know I had it then because it was really early on. I was traveling in the Netherlands, and because I'd had such extreme reactions with the Buteyko breathing, I wouldn't have been able to distinguish between COVID and the Buteyko reaction. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, like the shortage of breath, or a high temperature, or whatever the reaction I had, or a bit of disorientation. So I just kept going with the breathing, right? And I was thinking, wow, this is a really tough cold, and I've really got to go hard with this. I'm still feeling a shortage of breath here. It's tight in the lungs, and I keep having to get up all night. But basically, I just went at it for about 3 weeks. Took a bit more vitamin C maybe, but basically I just kept going at it because I couldn't when you have mold reaction, the shortage of breath is like, okay, that's what you get. It's normal. That's what you get, a tightness in the body when you go into a mold building. If you have that very strong reaction, it all cramps in, you get a pull in the throat, all that stuff. And not that I'm wishing it on anybody. It's been a really really amazing journey in that way.
And what is your control pause now, do you think?
It's steady at 40. It can go up and down, but it rarely goes really down anymore. Like I'd have to be doing something really physical and not doing a control pause, if that makes sense. So I didn't stop.
You mean not doing the maximum pauses?
Not doing a maximum, exactly. So I do a load of exercise, and then I do a maximum, and then I didn't do a maximum pause. I do a recovery. Then I would probably notice it. So and the maximum pause is, a minute and a half, or it rarely drops. It hasn't done that for, I don't know, months. But I do keep an eye on it. So if it does drop, I'm thinking, okay, so what's going on in my system, or what have I done? And it is usually the exercise. It's very easy on a bike to push yourself, and overexert, but it's pretty stable. And I check it also sometimes before I go to bed, although it's usually higher when you go to bed. But I do it every day, every morning. That's my routine. And then I just see, do I need to up it or not? I don't enjoy getting up in the night and doing it, I must say. It's not but it works. The thing is, it works. Okay, so you have to do it for half an hour, whatever it is, but then it usually something clears.
Well, then you can relax again. You breathe in better. Because at night time, it's normal to deep breathe, and if you've got some sort of process going on at the same time, you can get into trouble with the breathing at night. A lot of asthmatics are up at night doing practice, and having that mold toxicity, which causes breathlessness. Asthmatics have breathlessness. It's the same symptom.
Exactly.
So there's lots of things that cause breathlessness, and the only treatment for breathlessness is maximum pause.
I mean, that's what I've seen myself, is by opening that up, opening up my blood vessels, my body can tolerate it. It's interesting to see that my response to the mold in that cottage was a physical response this time, in a way. And yet the immune system is sort of, it's recalibrating in a way. And with the mindfulness practice, I can sort of talk it down a bit, and say, actually, this is an old memory, right? You're reacting in this way. This is an old memory. We don't need to do this so much. And then, of course, actually having a physical resource to do it is super.
From Buteyko perspective, when people have got strong allergic response, or the immune system has that pattern to respond to an allergen, like black mold is definitely an allergen, then once you've cleared it, the immune system still responds. You have to, it's good to actually come back to that allergen and expose yourself to it so the immune system can reset itself, because it is a habit and it is a learned pattern, and it will continue to do that learned pattern until it doesn't.
Yeah, I must say it's quite a fearful thing as well when you've had such a strong response to it and your body has been wiped by it. You know, why do you want to expose yourself to it?
But you didn't do it deliberately. Life caused it.
Exactly, but that's the interesting thing of the learning in this thing of that. We got a wooden floor and we'd put new oil on it. I didn't really read the packet that well, so I didn't read it. It said it's got some high chemical in it, so I put that on the floor again. Had a chemical sensitivity to it in the beginning, and now I'm noticing that it's also reducing. Yeah, and that I can sort of talk to my immune system and my nervous system and say, look, this is all right. Not that I really want the chemical, actually, you know, and of course we do the practical things of airing the room and all the other practical things, but it's also my body has got some sensitivity around that, or memory, not sensitive, memory around that. It's really good to talk about it in this way because it is that memory and how you can actually just sort of retrain yourself out of that. Because the way that I was doing it before was actually like a biofeedback, which is I would go into a building, I'd hold the pulse, you know, I'd feel my pulse, and then I'd say, actually, you don't need to do this anymore, you know, and you could do it a little bit, but it's not the same as opening up because you still feel clogged, you know. And with the Buteyko, you've got the sense of actually you can feel the expansion, and particularly when it comes into your brain, because most mold medicine, it doesn't get doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier that well, and so you can still not just feel foggy, but it feels like the brain isn't working. But with this, actually, you can at certain times you can feel that, not all the time, but you can feel how it's going in there and it's doing its thing. You know, the blood vessels are of the brain itself. Yeah, interesting. Isn't it amazing? What a journey. I mean, it's kind of really a lovely cycle, you know, really. Yeah, I mean, I'm also really grateful, you know, that I was able to reach out in that way, and you reminded us and showed us, and we did the courses. It was really helpful.
Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure. And that's the thing, is doing this work is, well, it's a privilege.
Yeah.
It really is, to have a tool that reverses people out of all kinds of symptoms that they learn for themselves, and they can manage their own health. They can be autonomous.
Yes, exactly. That's a very important point. You can be autonomous with this. I mean, I haven't spoken to you in a long time around my CP or any like that for a long time.
Not necessary.
Not necessary, and that says something to me about actually how you know what the power of the Buteyko and breathing in this way.
Well, we were having a discussion with our practitioner group. We're having a discussion the other day, and one of the points that came out is real help is when you help someone and they go away.
Exactly, and they don't come back. Yeah, that's right. You were saying that the mold deepens your breathing.
Yes, it's the toxic effect of the mold causes a breathing pattern to become deeper, and then you start to lose carbon dioxide.
Right. And so that's also that, and then you lose all your fitness and everything because of that.
Yeah, if you lose your carbon dioxide, your pH goes out, you're losing your oxygen in the cells. Your nervous system is getting hyper.
Yeah.
Your pH is going out, and your immune system is getting weaker.
And that's actually also where, and that's where you start going into the whole mouth breathing stuff, because you're tired. Yeah. Which is what sometimes I experience when I push myself on my bike. You know, Amaranatho's eating flies again. You know.
The important thing is that, well, it doesn't matter what the influence is on the breathing. If the breathing pattern is starting to deepen, then you need to do something with the pauses to get the breathing pattern back to this, which is how a baby breathes. That's the key.
How a baby breathes. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Oh, good.
There's many influences on breathing, and that's the whole conundrum.
Yeah.
Is I don't feel so good. So what's happened? Why my breathing pattern's deepened? Why?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't really matter why. Do pauses.
Yeah, exactly.
Get the breathing pattern back, you'll feel better.
Yeah. 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 And again, the whole way the blood vessels open up to allow that to I mean, that is phenomenal, really. Because you can feel, I feel that sense of expansion in my body most mornings, in fact. You know, you start doing the second maximum pause, and then, oh yeah, okay, here it goes, and there's that, or there's the resistance, and then the next one. But basically, yeah, that's good.
A tool that they learn for themselves that reverses people out of all kinds of symptoms, and they can manage their own health. They can be autonomous.